What if changing just one word could instantly make your inner critic quieter? Every time you make a mistake, your brain starts talking. For most people, that voice isn't supportive, it's ruthless. But psychologists discovered a surprisingly simple 2-minute habit that changes how your brain responds to stress. And it starts with replacing a single word. Think about the last time something went wrong. You sent an awkward text, messed up at work, said something dumb in front of people you wanted to impress. What did the voice in your head sound like right after? For most of us, it doesn't sound like a coach. It sounds like a critic. Why did I say that? I always do this. Everyone probably thinks I'm an idiot now. That inner voice runs almost constantly, and for a lot of people, it runs mean. Here's the thing, though. There's a genuinely simple habit, backed by some pretty striking research, that can change how that inner voice talks to you. It takes about 2 minutes to learn. It costs nothing. And honestly, it sounds almost too small to work. But the science behind it is solid. And I think once you hear the mechanism, you'll want to try it immediately. Let's start with the researcher behind this. His name is Ethan Kross. He runs the Emotion and Self-Control Lab at the University of Michigan. And for over a decade, he's been studying something called self-distancing. Basically, the different ways we can mentally step back from our own experience instead of being fully immersed in it. One of his most well-known findings is almost stupidly simple. He found that the language you use when you talk to yourself in your head actually changes how intensely you feel your emotions. And the switch is as small as changing a single word. Here's the setup. In one of his studies, people were asked to reflect on a painful memory or a stressful upcoming event, the kind of thing that normally spirals. Half the group was told to think about it using I. Why am I so anxious about this? I always mess this up. The other half was told to do the exact same reflection, but using their own name and second or third person language instead. Why is Sarah so anxious about this? Or, you've handled hard things before. Same memory, same person, same stressful situation. The only thing that changed was the pronoun, and the results were consistent across multiple studies. People using distanced language, their own name, you, or he/she instead of I, showed lower emotional reactivity, not just self-reported calm either. In follow-up studies using EEG and brain imaging, Cross and colleague Jason Moser found the same patterns show up at a neural level. Third-person self-talk appeared to help people regulate emotion without engaging the more effortful, exhausting parts of the brain that usually handle self-control. In plain terms, this wasn't people gritting their teeth and forcing themselves to calm down. The distance did some of the emotional work automatically, almost for free. So why would something this small make a difference? The idea is that our brains are actually pretty good at giving advice, just not to ourselves. Think about how easily you can spot a friend spiraling over something minor and calmly tell them, it's really not that big a deal, or you're being harder on yourself than you'd be on anyone else. You're not lying to them. You genuinely see it clearly. But turn that same lens on your own situation, and suddenly you lose that clarity. You're too close to it, too tangled up in the emotion of being you in that specific moment. Using your own name or you instead of I seems to trick your brain just slightly into treating yourself more like that friend. Cross has described it as making you think about yourself the way you'd think about someone else, which sounds like a strange, almost narcissistic thing to do, but the research says it's the opposite. It's not detachment from your problems. It's borrowing the same clear headed compassion you'd naturally offer someone you care about and pointing it at yourself instead. There's actually a long, informal history of people stumbling onto this without any research behind it. Cross has pointed out that public figures have done this instinctively for a long time, talking to themselves by name under pressure, coaching themselves through high stakes moments the way they'd coach a teammate. It's not a quirky habit. It's an emotional regulation tool that people have been reinventing on their own for a long time, and the research just caught up and explained why it works. So here's the actual 2-minute version of this, the part you can use today. Next time you catch that negative inner monologue running, I can't believe I did that. I'm so bad at this. Pause and just rerun the same thought using your name instead of I, out loud if you're alone, silently if you're not. So, I can't believe I did that becomes something like die use. You didn't handle it the way you wanted to, but that's okay. You've been through worse, or even simpler. Literally just narrate the situation to yourself the way you'd explain it to a friend calling you upset about the same thing. That's genuinely it. It's not a mantra. It's not an affirmation you're forcing yourself to believe. It's just a language shift. And what the research suggests is that shift alone creates enough psychological distance to lower the emotional intensity of the moment without you needing to convince yourself of anything you don't already believe. Now, an honest caveat, because that's what this channel is for. This isn't a cure for anxiety, depression, or any clinical condition, and nobody researching this claims it is. It's a regulation tool for everyday spiraling thoughts and stress, the kind everyone deals with, not a replacement for therapy or treatment if what you're dealing with runs deeper than that. The research is also still developing. Kross himself has said there's more work to be done before we fully understand every context this helps in. But for the specific, common experience of getting stuck in a harsh inner monologue after a bad moment, the evidence here is some of the most replicated and neurologically supported findings in this whole space. A lot more solid ground than most things we cover on this channel. What I find genuinely interesting about this one is how unglamorous it is. There's no ritual, no visualization, no elaborate belief system required. It's just a pronoun, and yet it's one of the more consistently reproduced findings in self-talk research, partly because it doesn't ask you to believe anything false about yourself. It just asks you to talk to yourself the way you'd already talk to someone you like. So next time your inner voice turns on you, try swapping I for your own name, just for one sentence, and see what shifts. It costs you nothing to test, and unlike a lot of things we cover on this channel, this one has real, repeated evidence behind it. If you want more of these, where we take something surprisingly small and show you the actual research behind why it works, subscribe and tell me in the comments, does talking to yourself by name feel strange, or does it actually help?